Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, reading all the books, watching all the videos, applying all the knowledge you've gathered to create the life you want, but still, things just don't seem to click? It's like you're doing all the work, yet the results keep slipping through your fingers. If this sounds familiar, then this video is definitely going to help you understand why that happens. Today, we're diving deep into the 3 types of people, or more accurately, 3 types of energies that can sabotage all the hard work you've done on your journey to manifesting your desired reality. Now, these aren't just external people. That's too simple. No, this is deeper. These are archetypes, energies that can show up in your life, not just outside, but also within. These archetypes can ruin what you're trying to build, whether it's your thinking, your mindset, or sometimes even your relationships. They wiggle their way into your world, halting your progress, and what's dangerous is most of the time, you don't even notice it. But once you do, once you see how these energies work, you'll be able to free yourself from their grip. So let's get into it. But first, I just want to give a quick shout out to my friend AJ. This is actually the second time we're filming this because during our first shoot, the microphone cut out after 10 minutes. Gotta love those tech malfunctions. Anyway, I decided to redo this video from scratch because I need you to get this information. It's that important. Like I always say, knowledge without action in your reality is useless, and I want to make sure you have the tools to actually create, not just consume. Okay, now back to the topic at hand. I've been on this journey myself for a long time, and I've encountered these energies over and over again. Trust me when I say, if you're working towards creating something better in your life and you're not aware of these 3 archetypes, you're going to find yourself on a never-ending loop of frustration. They're like Trojan horses that sneak into your life disguised as something else, but ultimately destroy you from the inside. The first archetype is something most of us are all too familiar with: the complainer. Complainers are dangerous not just for the obvious reasons, but because they fundamentally go against how the universe works. Now, whether this complainer is someone close to you, like a family member or friend, or it's your own inner voice doing the complaining, it doesn't matter. The energy is the same and you need to be aware of it. Complaining is, in essence, a disease, a mentally transmitted disease, and it's incredibly contagious. I call it an MTD. Mentally transmitted disease, because once you've been around a complainer long enough, you start to absorb their energy without even realizing it. It sneaks up on you, rerouting your own vibration into something negative. And remember, what you project vibrationally is what you will experience physically. It's a universal law, as within, so without. First, something needs to exist vibrationally, then it manifests physically. But complainers flip that law upside down. They complain about everything externally while doing nothing to change internally. Now here's why that's a problem. When you're constantly complaining about what's happening to you, you're actually reinforcing those experiences. You think you're commiserating or venting, but what you're really doing is cementing your frequency to align with the very things you're complaining about. Let me put it this way. Imagine you have a vision for your ideal reality. In that reality, would you be complaining about the things you're complaining about today? Probably not. Every time you complain, you're essentially telling the universe that you're stuck at a lower frequency. And because the universe is always listening, it responds by handing you more circumstances that match that vibration. It's tricky because you think complaining is just a reaction, but it's actually a creation process in itself. You're creating more problems by focusing on them through your complaints. So when you encounter a complainer, whether it's someone else or yourself, you have to recognize that this energy is undermining your ability to manifest the life you want. Now, but there's more. Think about how easy it is to adopt their energy. Ever hung around someone who's always negative? Before you know it, you start feeling drained. And worse, you start noticing more negative things in your own life. That's the mentally transmitted disease I'm talking about. They subtly alter your frequency, pulling you into their world of complaints. And here's the thing, energy doesn't lie. What they're doing externally is a direct reflection of what's happening inside them. And if you're not careful, it can become a reflection of what's happening inside you too. So, how do you deal with complainers? First, you need to protect your energy. Be mindful of who you surround yourself with, especially when you're working hard to build something new. Don't let complainers leak toxicity into your journey. And if that complainer is yourself, then you need to pause and pivot that energy immediately. Replace complaints with clear affirmations. Replace negativity with gratitude. You stop the complaint cycle by shifting your internal vibration, not by fixing your external circumstances. The second archetype we need to talk about is the realist. Realists are the people, and again, the thoughts inside you that insist everything must be logical or realistic. They focus on what's already been done or what's already visible, but that's the problem. We live in a world that's dominated by the third dimension, what we see and perceive with our five senses. But that's such a small portion of the reality that truly exists. In fact, what we can perceive physically is just about 0.35% of reality. That's right, less than 0.1%. And so when I hear someone say be realistic, or that's just not possible, I honestly feel bad for them. Because what they're really telling me is that they're bound by this super limited view of what can happen. They're glued to what they can see instead of what they can conceive or imagine. And guess what? Manifestation, creation, none of that happens in the realm of what's already here. If it were, then it wouldn't be manifestation, it would just be replication. Manifestation happens within the unseen. Think about the biggest jumps in human progress. They weren't created by a realistic people. If everyone was focused on being realistic, we wouldn't have the tech we use, the art we admire, or even the breakthroughs in science that blow our minds every day. So when you get trapped in this realistic way of thinking, you're actually boxing yourself into limitations. You're saying, I only want what I can see right now, and that's dangerous. The thing with realists is that they get approval from the world around them. Society loves to pat realistic people on the back for their practicality, reinforcing this idea as a positive trait. But here's the kicker. Making sense to the world isn't what brings breakthroughs. It's not what makes you soar. Most people live inside a box of realistic thinking, and that's where they stay. Sure, they might feel safe, but they're also limiting their potential. Again, you don't manifest from what's already here. You manifest from what isn't here yet. The fact that you only see a sliver of all existing realities is crucial to understand. So don't let the realists, whether they're people around you or voices in your head, dictate what's possible for you. Instead, focus on the unseen. That's where your potential lies. You get to create the unseen into the seen, but only if you stop looking at what's already here as a boundary. What's already here is actually an illusion, a previous manifestation. So trying to play safe and be realistic won't get you anywhere new. But how do you deal with realistic people, especially when their concerns seem so, well, real? Simple. You let them talk. Agree with them if you must. But never, ever let their limited thinking stop you from dreaming, from reaching into the universe and pulling down something new. What they believe is not your reality, it's theirs. Think of them as living in their own frequency, and if you keep your own frequency intact, their doubts won't stick to you. You have a world to create that goes beyond what their eyes and logic can see. Now, the third, and probably most dangerous, archetype is the fearmonger. Fearmongers thrive on what could go wrong. Their energy is a bit tricky because most of the time it's cloaked in care or protection. The friend who's always worried for your safety, the family member who constantly warns you about the risks. They mean well, but their constant feeding of fear-based energy is crippling your growth. Fear is one of the most powerful attractors in the universe. When you fear something deeply, it creates a sort of beacon in the unseen world, pulling that very thing towards you. I'm sure you've noticed this pattern in your life. You fear losing your job and boom, it happens. You're terrified of failing and suddenly everything falls apart. Fear isn't just an emotion, it's a frequency. It's a powerful attractor of the very things you don't want because it's such a strong, low vibration. Let me tell you a story from the Bible. Job was considered one of God's most loyal servants. Yet he lost everything, his family, his health, his wealth. You know why? In the book, Job says, "The thing I feared most has come upon me." This is a perfect example of how fear works. Even though his life was seemingly perfect, Job harbored deep fears inside, and those fears manifested into reality. That's what fearmongers do. They plant the seeds of fear in your mind, and before you know it, those seeds take root, growing into very real obstacles in your external world. Fearmongers can also disguise their behavior as realistic caution, which ties back to the second archetype. They'll often say, "I'm just being realistic," or "I just want to protect you." But really, they don't realize that they're projecting their fears onto you. And because fear is such a strong emotion, it enters your subconscious quickly, shaping your beliefs and shifting your frequency to align with worst-case scenarios. Now, how do you handle fearmongers when their concern feels so genuine? Well, the first step is recognizing that their fears are not your reality. They're living in their world where fear governs everything. You don't have to live there too. You can politely remove yourself from the conversation, change topics, or even just mentally block any fear-based statements they make. The key here is protecting your emotional and mental space. And so we've talked about the complainer, the realist, and the fearmonger. You may have already encountered these energies externally, but chances are they also exist within parts of yourself. Your job is to recognize these archetypes both in the people around you and in your internal voice. Now, you're probably wondering, how do you protect yourself from these energies? The answer is simple. Don't let someone else's frequency control your reality. You need to tune your own frequency first, every single day before the world has a chance to influence it. Here's what I do to protect my energy and my vision. The first thing is morning rituals. I meditate, I journal, I visualize. When I wake up, I don't touch my phone, I don't talk to anyone. I go straight into grounding myself. Why? Because it's absolutely crucial to program yourself before anyone else does. The first voice you hear, the first energy you tap into in the morning must be yours. It has to be aligned with what you want to manifest, not the noise of the external world. Once you begin prioritizing yourself like this, you'll notice that complainers, realists, and fearmongers lose their grip on you because you've already conditioned your vibration to stand strong no matter what comes your way. You'll be able to maintain your frequency even when these forces try to bring you down. This brings me to the last point. Protecting your frequency is an ongoing process, not a one-time fix. You need to continually check in with yourself, set your boundaries, and reinforce your vision every day, whether it's through rituals, affirmations, or simply spending time alone to reconnect with your vision. The more you protect yourself, the stronger your frequency becomes, and the less these external forces will have any power over you. Remember, your reality is yours to create, no one else's. These archetypes can only destroy your progress if you let them. So be mindful, be intentional, and don't allow anyone's frequency, whether it's complaining, realism, or fear, to poison the powerful energy you've built within yourself.